I'm a proud Floridian. Back in the early 2000s, I was in college in South Florida, but my family lived up in the Panhandle. It's a 7-hour haul up the spine of the state, so I mostly only went home for holidays. Thanksgiving of junior year, I managed to shuffle my midterms and leave campus 3 days earlier than everyone else. I figured I'd beat the traffic and glide home. My roommates wanted one last meal together first, so I ate in the dining hall around late afternoon, hugged everyone goodbye, and hit the road just after sunset. The sky was that deep Florida purple, and the turnpike felt almost empty. Around 10 p.m., I passed my usual 2/3 mark, an old mom-and-pop diner where I always grabbed chocolate chip pancakes, used the restroom, and called my dad from the payphone. Only this time the windows were papered over and the sign was dark. Closed for good. Bummed and a little wired, I kept driving. The area back then was just pine and billboards. Hardly anything open late. When a green highway sign promised a rest area near Alachua, I took it. I pulled my '95 Honda Civic into a spot directly under the brightest pole light I could find. The place was mostly empty except for a single minivan way down the row and a vending machine humming like a beehive. I used the bathroom, stretched my legs, and called my dad to check in. As I hung up, a tired-looking woman approached, polite but frazzled. "I'm Dana," she said. "We're from Virginia. Got turned around, try to get to Disney. Do you know if we've missed the right exit?" I gave her the best directions I could. We laughed about Florida highways all looking the same at night. She thanked me and headed back toward the building to find her husband and 2 little boys. I started back to my car, then froze. Parked tight against my driver's side door was a beat-up, unmarked gray work van, Florida plates, paint peeling like sunburn. It hadn't been there 5 minutes before. There was no way to open my door without brushing that van. Something in my gut clenched. I pivoted on my heel and walked fast back toward the restrooms. Halfway there, I nearly collided with a middle-aged guy holding the hands of 2 sleepy boys, Mark and Evan. Dana stepped out behind them. I blurted what I'd seen. "That's my car up there." A van pulled in close, driver's side, and I don't know what to do. Mark glanced at his kids, then at me, then squared his shoulders. "Stay with Dana," he said. "I'll go take a look." He jogged toward the pole light where my Civic Saturday. From where we stood, we could see him stop at the van's window, lean in, and stiffen. His voice came out steady but high, loud enough for us to hear across the lot. "Excuse me, gentlemen, we've already called the police, so I'm going to politely suggest you get out of here now." Then he turned and ran back to us. "Come on," he said, pointing at me. "All of us car now." We piled into their SUV, Dana up front with the boys, me in the back, heartbeat in my throat. Mark hustled to the pay phone by the vending machines. Before he'd even dialed, the work van screamed to life. It lurched, tires chirping, jumped the curb and fishtailed out of the lot so hard it left a long black ribbon on the concrete. The suddenness of it made us all flinch. They were gone in seconds. No lights, just taillights flickering once as they hit the ramp. 2 patrol cars arrived within minutes, lights washing the palmettos blue and red. Mark spoke to one officer. Another walked over to me with a small notepad and a kind expression. Here's what Mark had seen under that bright pole light. Every seat removed from the van except the driver's, just bare metal and a rubber floor. A second man sitting farther back on a folded crate, a tarp spread in the rear like a makeshift mat, with rope, duct tape, and a 5-gallon bucket tucked against the wall. No lagi, no mops, no phones out. Just 2 men sitting in a gutted van pressed against a young woman's driver's door at 10 p.m. in a lonely rest area. The officer's jaw tightened as Mark described it. They took our statements and offered to follow each of us to the interstate ramp. Mark and Dana insisted on trailing behind me for a few exits just in case. We waved and split near a brighter, busier stretch of highway where the world felt normal again. Gas stations open, neon signs buzzing, people inside laughing at nothing important. I still think about that night, about how easy it would have been to unlock my door, slide in, and find the passenger door yanked open before the engine even turned over. About how Dana asked me for directions at the exact moment I needed a reason to walk back to people. About how Mark said the words, "We already called the police," even before he picked up the phone. The smartest bluff I've ever seen. To the family from Virginia, wherever you are, thank you. And to anyone driving long Florida nights, park under the brightest light. Trust your gut. Keep your distance if something feels off. And remember that no destination is worth ignoring that little voice that tells you to turn around and find help. It happened just last night, around 7:30 p.m. The sun had been down for a while, so the parking lot and highway were already swallowed in darkness. My friend Rachel and I, both 22, were about 2/3 of the way through our 16-hour drive back home from Salem, Massachusetts. We were exhausted, restless, and my bladder wasn't going to last another mile. Against my better judgment, we pulled into a rest stop in eastern Pennsylvania. I usually avoid those places whenever I can. They always feel a little off, but this one looked newer, bright enough, clean enough. I didn't have any bad feelings at first. We walked inside together. The lobby was mostly empty except for one man. He was older, maybe mid to late 60s, standing near the vending machines with a flip phone pressed to his ear. His posture was stiff, his clothes wrinkled, and something about the way he stood there made my skin itch just a little. But we walked past him without thinking much of it and headed into the bathroom. We ended up staying in there for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Rachel had spotted a couple of pimples. She just had a pop. We were joking about it when we finally pushed the door open and walked back out. That's when I noticed him again. The man wasn't on his phone anymore. Instead, he just stood there under the buzzing fluorescent lights, grinning at us. Not a friendly smile. Something stretched too wide, too long. His eyes followed us the entire time it took to cross the lobby. Rachel squeezed my arm, and we both picked up the pace, laughing nervously as we pushed through the doors into the cold night air. My car was only about 6 spots from the entrance. We half jogged, half laughed, trying to shake off the weirdness. I just unlocked the doors when I remembered something. My boyfriend had asked me to check the oil on the way home, just to be safe. My car had been acting up, and I didn't want to push my luck. I almost said, forget it, I'll check later, but for some stupid reason I decided to just do it right then. Rachel leaned against the passenger door, watching me pop the hood while I pulled out the dipstick and tried to focus. That's when I saw them. The old man from inside, and another man, younger, maybe mid-30s, who must have been waiting out of sight. Both of them stepped out of the rest area doors at the same time. The younger one walked straight down the sidewalk directly toward the front of my car. The older one angled diagonally across the lot, his smile never fading, heading toward the driver's side where I was standing. My stomach dropped. There were no other cars near us. The only vehicles were parked across the lot, closer to the building. So why were they coming this way? Rachel and I locked eyes. We bolted. I shoved the dipstick back under the hood, slammed it down without thinking, and we scrambled into the car. But in the panic, I realized the hood hadn't latched. It popped back up an inch. I swore under my breath and had to jump back out, slam it properly, then dive inside again. We locked the doors just as the two men closed in. My chest felt like it was caving in. The younger man slowed his walk, dragging his steps past the front of my car. His face was blank, completely expressionless, but his eyes stayed locked on us through the windshield. He didn't stop right away. He kept going a few feet, then turned back and started walking toward us again. Meanwhile, the older man approached the driver's side, so close I could see the lines in his face under the lot lights. That awful grin never left him. Then at the last second, he shifted course and wandered past us toward the far side of the lot, still grinning. I didn't wait to see what came next. I threw the car in reverse, backed out fast, and turned toward the exit. As my headlights lit up the road ahead, my blood ran cold. The older man was standing dead center in the road, smiling. His hand was raised, motioning for us to stop. I didn't. I swerved past him and hit the gas. Rachel gripped my arm, so tightly her nails dug into my skin. In the rearview mirror, I saw them both walking calmly back across the lot. Each one climbed into a car parked near the building, the same side where no other vehicles had been before. My hands were trembling on the wheel as I merged back onto the highway. Rachel and I didn't stop talking for hours, trying to convince ourselves it was nothing. But deep down we knew. Two men don't approach two young women in a rest stop parking lot like that, smiling, circling, blocking the road, without bad intentions. I keep trying to tell myself maybe they were going to offer help with the car, but that's a lie I don't even believe. I wasn't stranded. I was just checking the oil. And if they really had cars on the other side of the lot, why would one of them walk so far in the opposite direction just to come back toward us? It doesn't make sense. None of it does. All I know is that Rachel and I were lucky last night. Lucky I didn't wait until I was alone to stop. Lucky I didn't roll the window down. Lucky I didn't stop the car when he motioned for me to. And if you ever find yourself at a rest stop late at night, please trust your instincts. Don't give anyone the chance to smile at you like that. I was 18 years old, driving home to California for summer break after finishing my sophomore year of college. It was a 9-hour trip, and I'd stocked up on energy drinks, soda, and snacks to push through the long drive. I'd left campus late, after dinner with friends, figuring I would just drive into the night and make it home before morning. The first few hours passed smoothly, just me, the highway, and the radio humming low. By the time I was about 3 hours from home, an hour outside Reno, I was on a lonely stretch of road when it hit me. The urge to pee came out of nowhere. All those energy drinks I'd chugged were coming back to haunt me. I cursed myself for not stopping 45 minutes earlier when I'd gotten gas. Then, like a miracle, I saw a sign for a rest stop up ahead. I pulled off the highway and into the lot. There were only 2 vehicles parked there. On one side sat a beat-up, ratty-looking sedan. On the other side, a large white Sprinter-type van with tinted windows. The place was too quiet, and something about it already felt wrong, but I was desperate. I hurried out of my car and jogged toward the restroom before I had an accident. Inside, it was dimly lit and smelled faintly of disinfectant. I was just finishing up when I heard the squeak of the bathroom door opening. My entire body froze. Now, I'm in decent shape. I work out, but I'm not a big guy. 5'7", maybe 160 pounds. So, standing there in that silence, I braced myself, half expecting some horror movie scenario. When I opened the stall, though, I saw just an average-looking man. Short brown hair, weathered face, nothing that screamed dangerous. He glanced up and gave me a friendly smile before stepping to a urinal. I washed my hands quickly, eager to leave. That's when he spoke. His voice was low, gravelly, the kind that forced you to lean in just to hear it. "You like dogs, man?" he asked casually as he started scrubbing his hands. I froze again. He was wearing stained coveralls, the kind mechanics wear, with grease smudged across the fabric. My gut tightened. Something about the question, in this setting, set off alarms in my head. Still, I forced a polite smile and muttered, "Yeah, man. Dogs are cool," before heading for the door. That was a mistake, because the second I stepped out, I heard his footsteps right behind mine, too close. He followed me almost on my heels, and then his voice came again, sharper, more eager. "I got a new puppy. Want to see him? He's real cute." Every hair on the back of my neck stood up. My keys were clenched in one hand, my phone in the other. My voice cracked as I called back over my shoulder, "No thanks, gotta get going." I reached my car, fumbling with the handle, when suddenly his hand slammed against the door and tried to pull it open wider. He was smaller than me, but his grip was iron strong. My heart exploded in my chest. I jammed the key into the ignition, yanked my phone in my ear, and pretended to dial. That's when he leaned close and hissed words I'll never forget. "By the time the cops get here, you'll already be dead." Ice filled my veins. Pure instinct took over. I kicked out as hard as I could, my foot connecting with his stomach. He grunted and collapsed backward onto the pavement, releasing the door. I slammed it shut, hit the locks, and floored the gas. Tires screeched across the asphalt as I tore out of that rest stop like a bat out of hell. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of him scrambling up to his feet, running toward his sedan. But I didn't stick around to see if he followed. I just kept driving. For the next 3 hours, I was a wreck behind the wheel, glancing in the mirrors every few seconds, convinced his headlights would appear behind me. I imagined him trailing me all the way to my parents' house, waiting to finish what he started. When I finally pulled into the driveway, my dad was still awake. I told him everything, my hand still shaking on the steering wheel. He listened, but then talked me out of calling the police, saying nothing had actually happened. But I know what almost happened, and I know I was seconds away from something I don't even want to picture. The next fall, when it was time to head back to school, I took an entirely different route. And to this day, I've never stopped at another rest stop again. So, to the man in the greasy coveralls, wherever you are, no, I don't want to see your damn puppy.